Hey, quick question. What's the lie you've told yourself so often that it feels like who you are? So I used to live in California and I had quite a few friends who strongly identify with being positive. Now you might think, well, that's a great thing, isn't it? Being positive. Yes. And they were also very against negativity. They very strongly believed that positivity was good, negativity was bad. You want to attract and create as much positivity in your life as possible, and you want to repel the negative. There was sort of like an underlying fear of negative people, negative situations, negative thoughts, negative feelings, and this constant need to change anything negative into a positive. At first, people thought these people were wonderful. They were amazing. They're just so positive. And yet, what I noticed as I got to know these people over many years, they had incredible negativity about themselves, about life, that they were working over the top of, trying to suppress, trying to pretend wasn't there, trying to mask and trying to squash out of them with more positivity, hoping that if they could just hammer it out, that suddenly all this negativity would go away. The problem with it is they weren't becoming any better at handling the negativity. See, negativity is just a part of life. There are things that don't go away, things that suck, things that are sad, things that we don't like, and we resist it and we fight it. We make it wrong. We try to eliminate it and remove it and cancel it. And all that it does is it makes it a bigger threat to us, because when it inevitably shows up again, when the sadness and the anger and the disappointment inevitably shows up again, we are so woefully equipped to navigate it. So every time we push it away, we actually make ourselves a little bit less able to handle negativity, which means it builds up. And so as a result, these people were feeling overwhelmed by the sheer amount of negativity in their world. Meanwhile, there are people out there who I knew were a bit more balanced around negativity and positivity, who didn't feel like anything was really that negative, that positive. It was just life's both, and that's just the way it is. As a result, if you ask them who they were, they would say that they're positive. And yet, when you got to know them, they had a negative view of negativity itself. They couldn't see that paradox. And so even though they were trying to be positive, negativity was a bigger part of their life than someone who was actually maybe even genuinely more negative. Why? Because they spend so much of their day hunting for negativity in the world, in other people, in situations to protect themselves from it, all while telling the lie and believing to themselves and trying to tell everybody how positive they are. And yet they were attuned to negativity. So it's one of those interesting things that there's a lie sometimes we tell ourselves. It's not always as obvious as we realize. Sometimes it can be that I'm a good person, I'm kind, I'm not mean, I'm helpful. And what it can actually do is it can be a mask for the part of us that isn't kind, that isn't helpful, that doesn't like to do those things. And we're trying to pretend that we're not those things. Maybe there's guilt, maybe there's shame, maybe there's a fear that if someone found out that part of me, they wouldn't like me or I wouldn't be loved. And then what we end up doing is we end up carrying that guilt and shame around with us. And so it's a very interesting thing for me when I listen for people and they are so strongly telling me who they are. I'm very honest. I'm very direct. I'm very generous. I'm very patient. It's always a really interesting clue to me, because I know that there's possibly something going on inside that person that they are at war with within themselves. The person who says that they're so patient has an incredible capacity for impatience. It's just a matter of we're yet to discover it in what particular way. Someone who might say that, I don't have a mean bone in my body, has an incredible capacity for meanness. Now, here's the kicker. They might objectively look you in the face and go, well, show me, where am I mean? And sometimes the person they're meanest to is themselves. The person that they are the most dishonest with is themselves. The person that they are the most impatient with is themselves. And so as they go out into the world trying to be this thing, trying to convince themselves and trying to convince everybody else, sometimes that war is very much within ourselves. And that is the lie that we tell to ourselves, that it makes us think that that's just who we are, that we're this negative person that has to be positive. So therefore we're positive, we're positive, we're positive. And we think that if we say it enough times, that somehow it'll just manifest that as reality. And yet sometimes the most helpful thing is to find that love and that peace and forgiveness for ourselves, to say, yeah, I'm positive and I'm negative, and I can be really positive sometimes and I can be really negative sometimes. And it's this idea that as we sort of discharge both the positive and the negative, and we find ourselves in a space of this sort of harmony and this equanimity to be both of these things, suddenly now the need to present ourselves a certain way to the world it just goes away. We don't need to tell the world how kind we are or how mean we're not, because we understand that, well, yeah, contextually I can be like this and I can also be like that. And I don't hate myself when I'm like that, nor do I love myself anymore when I'm like that. There's a really great poem by Rudyard Kipling called If. It's one of my favorite poems. There is a line in there about treating these two imposters just the same. And the imposters is the two sides of ourselves. It's the shame of when we fail, and it's the pride of when we win. And it's not gloating in our pride, nor is it being sorrowful in our failure. It's being able to look at ourselves fully and go, sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. Sometimes we're mean, sometimes we're kind. Sometimes we're negative, sometimes we're positive. It's in that love and peace for ourselves when we can find ourselves able to be that whole thing. We don't have to tell the lie about it anymore. And as a result, when we don't tell the lie about it anymore, it's not something we have to carry around as part of our identity. So the question I had for you is, what's the lie that you've told yourself so often that it feels like who you are? And here's the thing. What if who you think you are is the lie you're carrying around about yourself that you want everyone to know about you, including you, even though everyone else can see through it? Something to think about. Bit of a chewy question for you, but I'll leave it with you. And I look forward to seeing you next time. See you later.